Mr. PC, you check PC, man. Nothing you rap is valid anymore, bro.
Boosie Badazz posted a list of rappers who never checked protective custody, and Young Thug was on that list. But when Thug defended the people who do check PC, Boosie came back with 5 words that set the internet on fire. You check PC, you a coward. This whole situation actually started with a completely different beef between Boosie and Kodak Black. Throughout early March 2026, the two of them had been going at each other, and around March 7th through the 9th, Kodak jumped on Boosie's Instagram Live where things got heated fast. Boosie went at Kodak for his collaboration with 6ix9ine and his alleged drug use. But the biggest issue Boosie had with Kodak came down to protective custody. On March 12th, 2026, Boosie went on Instagram Live and delivered what might be the most damaging statement you can make about another rapper in this culture. His exact words to Kodak were, "You check PC, man."
Mr. PC, you check PC, man. Nothing you rap is valid anymore, bro.
Nothing you rap is valid anymore, bro. Nothing you rap is valid. And that's when Boosie took things a step further by going to X, formerly known as Twitter, and posting a list of rappers who he claimed never checked PC during their time behind bars. The list included T.I., NBA, Youngboy, Diddy, Pooh Shiesty, Gucci Mane, Lil Kim, Bill Cosby, Fetty Wap, and Young Thug himself. This post became a trending topic almost immediately, with fans sharing it and debating it and adding names they thought belonged on the list. Boosie had successfully made his point about Kodak while giving respect to the artist who he felt earned it. And that's when Young Thug decided to respond in a way nobody expected. Young Thug, who was literally on Boosie's honor roll, decided to defend protective custody as a concept. His post on X read, "PC is smarter though. That hard shit get you none but heartaches from your family and kids. And more charges if it's too much going on in the dorms." Fresh off serving 907 days in Fulton County Jail, a man who by Boosie's own acknowledgement stayed in general population, Young Thug was now arguing that checking PC is actually the smarter move, because trying to be hard in prison gets you nothing except more charges if things go wrong and heartache for your family when you can't come home. The response from fans came immediately and the split was obvious, but nobody's response carried more weight than what Boosie posted next. His reply came in all caps, and when somebody types in all caps, you know they're in their feelings. Boosie wrote, "Thugger if it's smarter to check PC. Why you ain't check PC? Cause you can't check PC. If you say you a real nay. You from the trenches. You know how this shit go, brah. You check PC, you a coward. Simple as that. Keep that shit a 100. I feel like you picking sides. SMA don't save none to let him drown. Y'all know what we signed up for." Boosie was pointing out what he saw as a contradiction in Thug's logic. If PC is the smarter choice, why didn't Thug do it himself when he had the chance? And that line about picking sides tells you Boosie felt like Thug was defending Kodak, specifically by defending PC in general. The phrase, "y'all know what we signed up for," landed hard because Boosie was saying that everyone who lives this lifestyle knows the risks and the rules. And you don't get to change those rules because things become uncomfortable. Young Thug's follow-up response turned out to be one of the most thoughtful statements in any recent rap disagreement. He wrote, "You right, OG. I'm just saying some of us the police hate and can't wait to put charges on them. So it's a case-by-case situation, but if you acting gangster, stand on whatever comes with it, fasho, you overly right. But I am the cause the police hated me after far, they tried everything." Those 2 words at the beginning, "you right, OG," showed respect for Boosie and acknowledged that his principle has merit. But then came the pivot with, "some of us the police hate and can't wait to put charges on nin ma. It's for anything," which was Young Thug speaking directly from experience. The Fulton County DA came at him with a 56-count indictment against 28 defendants, and he knows exactly what it feels like when law enforcement targets you and looks for any excuse to stack more charges. His phrase, "case-by-case situation," became the key line because Thug was arguing this isn't black and white. Checking PC might be the right call depending on circumstances, especially if police are specifically trying to set you up or hoping you get into a situation so they can add time to your sentence. Atlanta rapper Rollo jumped into the conversation with a direct challenge to Thug. Rollo had been released from federal prison in 2023, and his post on X read, "Thug ain't went to not one federal prison yard. He had that weakest trial, and now he think he Escobar. Imagine being called a rat and still walked every yard with my chest out." Rollo was making a specific criticism that Thug's experience in county jail during a trial doesn't compare to federal prison, where you're on a yard with convicted inmates. The comparison to Pablo Escobar was meant to dismiss Thug's credentials entirely. Rollo also posted a video on Instagram declaring he'd rather die than enter PC voluntarily, claiming he'd been in over 40 one-on-one fights across 11 different facilities. Young Thug's response to Rollo came much shorter and much less diplomatic than his response to Boosie. He told Rollo to shut up and repeated his case-by-case argument. And that difference in tone between how Thug responded to Boosie versus Rollo shows everything about how he views the hierarchy of respect in this conversation. Meek Mill noticed his name wasn't on Boosie's original list and wanted to set the record straight with a post that read, "I'm skinny. I walked every yard in every jail I was in and held weight in every jail I was in. But jail is embarrassing, so I never speak on it. Came home, changed laws, helped free so many real people. Supplied the jail with resources, I must be a different list." Meek was making clear that he walked every yard and earned respect inside, but he also pointed out that since coming home, he's worked to change laws and help free people still incarcerated while supplying jails with resources. Boosie responded to Meek with an apology video saying he intended to include Meek and Kevin Gates on the list and didn't mean to leave them off. Meek accepted gracefully with, "I got nothing but respect for you." But on the topic of Thug's argument that PC is smarter, Meek had a line that captured the whole debate when he wrote, "We gotta argue this one at trial, because this is a legitimate disagreement that reasonable people can see differently." Understanding why this conversation matters requires knowing what protective custody actually means in prison culture. PC is when an inmate voluntarily requests to be housed separately from general population for safety, and in theory, that's a reasonable option if you're in danger. But PC units typically house sex offenders, informants who cooperated with law enforcement, former police officers, and people who can't survive general population for other reasons. When you check PC, you put yourself in the same category as snitches and predators voluntarily. And according to prison slang references, being called a PC case means you're considered weak or untrustworthy. That label follows you when you leave prison too, back to your community and back to your career. Hip-hop's commercial and cultural economy runs on perceived authenticity, and fans invest in artists who they believe are really about that life. Bobby Shmurda served 7 years in general population and even took additional time to protect a co-defendant, which gave him enormous credibility when he came home. But if it comes out that an artist checked PC, everything they've ever rapped about gets called into question overnight, which is exactly what Boosie meant when he told Kodak, "Nothing you rap is valid anymore." When Boosie speaks on prison, his credentials are essentially unmatched. He served approximately 5 years at Louisiana State Penitentiary, better known as Angola, which sits on a former slave plantation and houses around 5,100 inmates. 86% of those inmates carry convictions for violent offenses, and 75% are serving life sentences. This is one of the most notorious maximum security facilities in the entire United States. While at Angola, Boosie wasn't serving regular time because he was facing a first-degree murder indictment that carried a potential death sentence by lethal injection, the needle. He wasn't just risking additional charges like Young Thug mentioned because he was fighting for his actual life. A unanimous jury acquitted him in May 2012, and he walked out of Angola in March 2014. That's why he wrote about 6ix9ine's snitching situation with, "I was facing a needle. And ain't bend, break, or fold." Boosie faced the ultimate consequence and still didn't compromise, which is the standard he holds other rappers to because, in his view, if he could do it under those circumstances, nobody has an excuse. Young Thug's experience deserves the same full context because what he went through was brutal in a different way. Police arrested him on May 9th, 2022, at his Buckhead home in Atlanta, and he faced 8 counts, including RICO conspiracy, criminal street gang activity, drug charges, firearm possession during a felony, and possession of a machine gun. The entire indictment named 28 defendants across 56 counts total, with prosecutors alleging that Young Thug co-founded Young Slime Life, which they characterized as a Bloods-affiliated street gang responsible for murders and armed robberies and drug trafficking over approximately a decade. His attorney, Brian Steele, described the confinement conditions as dungeon-like, with a windowless cement cell where overhead lights stayed on 24 hours a day, no exercise, and no human contact beyond his attorneys, with food Steele described as inedible. Administrative solitary confinement wore him down over time, according to Rolling Stone, and bond was denied at least 4 times during his pretrial detention. Jury selection began on January 4, 2023, and took 10 months to complete, which became the longest jury selection in Georgia history, with roughly 600 prospective jurors summoned. Opening statements didn't begin until November 27, 2023, almost a full year after jury selection started. The trial got hit with scandal when a secret meeting between Judge Glanville, prosecutors, and a key witness led to Bryan Steele being held in contempt and arrested. Glanville eventually recused himself, and 2 more judges followed before Judge Paige Reese Whitaker finally took over. The prosecution's star witness, Kenneth Copeland, known as Woody, disavowed his own prior testimony while on the stand and called it fabricated. On October 31, 2024, Halloween night, Young Thug entered a non-negotiated blind plea where he pled guilty to 6 counts and no contest to 2 counts. His sentence came to 40 years total, structured as 5 years, in prison commuted to time served, 15 years of probation, and 20 years of backloaded prison time that converts to time served if he completes probation without violations. He walked out of Fulton County Jail that same evening after approximately 907 days behind bars. Freedom came with strict conditions, including a 10-year ban from Metro Atlanta with very limited exceptions. No contact with known gang members or co-defendants except for Gunna and his brother Unfunk. No gang references in his music. 4 anti-gang presentations to Atlanta youth every year. 100 hours of community service annually, and random drug tests with property searches. If he violates any of these terms, that suspended 20-year prison sentence becomes very real. When Young Thug posted, "The police hated me FRFR, they tried everything," he wasn't exaggerating because they threw everything at him. And here's what makes it worse. The entire YSL RICO case ended with 0 murder convictions across all 28 defendants. All those resources, all that time, and they couldn't get a single murder conviction. 2 men with legitimate prison experience arrived at completely different conclusions from their time inside. Boosie's position is that the code exists without exceptions. And if you claim street origins, you handle business in general population, regardless of the risks. He lived this standard at Angola while facing the death penalty, which gives him the authority to enforce it. Young Thug's position carries more complexity because yes, the code exists, and yes, gangsters should stand on it, but not every situation is the same. Some people face specific targeting from law enforcement, and some people have enemies inside who were placed there specifically to get at them. Checking PC in those cases might not be cowardice, but survival instead. Boosie sees absolute terms, while Thug sees situations. What makes this interesting is that Thug didn't check PC himself because by his own account and Boosie's acknowledgement, he stayed in general population for all 907 days. He endured conditions his lawyer called inhumane and watched a co-defendant get stabbed in his cell. After all of that, he came out and argued that checking PC can be the rational choice, which isn't him making excuses for himself, but him looking at the bigger picture and asking whether the code should apply the same way to everyone in every situation. Fan reaction split along 2 clear lines. Traditional street culture believers sided with Boosie completely, viewing the code as non-negotiable because if you rap about gangster life, you accepted all the consequences when you chose that path. Prison violence is part of the game, and if you can't handle general population, you shouldn't have been rapping about being tough. The pragmatic camp aligned with Young Thug's argument that survival should come first. Because what's the point of maintaining your reputation if you end up dead or with extra charges that keep you from your family even longer? A generational element showed up in this split too, with many older heads in hip-hop siding with Boosie's uncompromising stance, while the younger generation seemed more open to Young Thug's approach. This debate connects to other recent controversies around cooperation and credibility in hip-hop. When 6ix9ine cooperated with federal authorities and testified against his 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods associates in 2019, condemnation from the hip-hop community came down nearly universal, with Boosie being one of the loudest voices against him. But when 6ix9ine released his Gooba music video after getting out, it broke YouTube records and proved that commercial viability can survive credibility damage even if people said his career was over. Gunna's situation added another layer because Young Thug's own associate entered an offered plea in the YSL case in December 2022 and got released while Thug was still locked up. That plea triggered snitch accusations that damaged his peer relationships, even though his lawyers maintained he never cooperated against co-defendants. The Boosie Kodak feud that started this whole conversation actually goes back to 2023 when Kodak collaborated with 6ix9ine, which in Boosie's view is almost as bad as snitching yourself because it crosses a line that shouldn't be crossed. Young Thug experienced both sides of this debate. He didn't check PC and endured the exact conditions Boosie holds up as the standard, but he came out questioning whether that standard should apply equally to everyone. His case-by-case framing might not satisfy street purists like Boosie and Rollo, but it reflects a lived reality that most of his critics haven't experienced at the same intensity. 907 days in solitary confinement with lights that never turn off and food that's inedible, and 4 bond denials and a trial that became the longest in Georgia history, and a co-defendant stabbed in his cell. After all of that, Young Thug asked whether it's really fair to judge everyone by the same standard when everyone's circumstances are different. He's asking this while fully acknowledging that he chose not to check PC himself and follow the code, but he's questioning whether the code should be treated as absolute for everyone. Boosie put Young Thug on his honor roll list and ended up in a back and forth with him anyway, which shows how complicated these conversations get. Boosie wasn't trying to disrespect Thug because he was praising him, and the conflict only started when Thug spoke up for people who made different choices. Even in their exchange, you can see mutual respect because Thug called Boosie OG and acknowledged his points had merit, while Boosie never questioned Thug's personal conduct and just didn't like him defending the practice in general. Compare that to how Thug responded to Rollo with STFU, and you see a hierarchy of respect that both Boosie and Thug understand even while disagreeing. Meek Mill's comment about arguing this one at trial captured the nature of this debate perfectly, because it's not a beef but a disagreement between people who respect each other about how strict the rules should be. Young Thug spent 907 days locked up in conditions his lawyer called dungeon-like, while the state threw everything at him with a 56-count indictment. The prosecution got 0 murder convictions across all 28 defendants. He did all of that without checking PC and followed the code. Then he came out and argued that maybe the code doesn't have to be absolute for everyone in every situation. And maybe the police hated me, FR, they tried everything, is relevant context when judging someone's choices. Boosie disagrees because he thinks the code is the code with no exceptions, and he earned the right to that opinion at Angola while facing the death penalty. Meek Mill thinks they need to argue this one at trial. Rollo thinks Thug is overrating his own experience. Fans are split right down the middle. This is one of those rare moments where hip-hop is having a real conversation about its own values. Not just who's winning or losing a beef, but actually debating what the rules should be and how strictly they should be enforced. Young Thug, responding to Boosie, wasn't about defending himself because he was already on the list of people Boosie respected. It was about defending the idea that different people in different situations might have different right answers. Whether you agree with that probably depends on how absolute you think the code should be. But one thing stays certain. This conversation isn't over. The debate about protective custody and cooperation and what keeping it real means in an era when the system is designed to break you down will keep coming up. And when it does, people will remember this exchange. Boosie, the man who faced the needle at Angola and didn't fold. Young Thug, the man who spent 907 days in a cell with the lights always on and came out asking questions. 2 real ones with different answers to the same question. Watch the video on the left or right and subscribe to the channel.